understand English? And you prefer English? Me too. Even though I am from Germany originally, but I am just programmed in English. I don't spend so much time in Germany. So I will be most happy to do this discussion in English. Okay? So welcome everybody to our little seminar tonight. The topic is the power of forgiveness, right? Did you actually know that this seminar is happening, or you just came for the RT? You're new. Oh, first time here. Wow, welcome. Okay, wonderful. Yes. So we have tonight a special seminar. I'm actually a traveling preacher. Maybe I should introduce myself a little bit. So my name is Devaki. I am originally from Germany, but I have not lived here for over 40 years. So I met Krishna consciousness in Australia. I was living for some years in Australia. Then I was involved in preaching in the former Soviet Union. And for the last 26 years, I'm basically living out of a suitcase. I'm always traveling. Just 2 days ago, I came from Kenya. I was doing a 4-week tour in Kenya, and before that I was in Mauritius, and before that I was in the USA. So I'm always touring around every weekend in a different place. And I give some lectures, seminars, retreats, like that. And I've also published 6 books. Actually, one book we will use today in our discussion on forgiveness. And at the end of our discussion, I can tell you a little bit about the books. Yeah, so that's basically my humble self. I spent 5 months per year preaching in India and Bangladesh, and 7 months per year basically all around the world. I travel a lot also in Europe or the little countries to Paris and Switzerland and Croatia and Finland and all these places. Everywhere we have ISKCON temples, and there's something happening in every country actually by Prabhupada's mercy. So is it the first time you're in ISKCON temple, or you have been to other ISKCON temples?
We have been to ISKCON temples. Here it's first time.
And where were you before?
In India.
In India, which place?
Andhra Pradesh.
It's in southern
Which city? Which city?
It's in Rajahmundry.
Rajahmundry. Yeah, I've been there. Yes, 2 years ago. Yes, it's a holy place, right? On the river there. Yeah, very beautiful. Yes. Yeah, I've been there 2 years ago. Not so many people speak English there, so it was a bit, I think we did sentence by sentence translation. And I went there from Visakhapatnam, I came to Visakhapatnam, and then I just went for 2 days to Rajahmundry and then came back to Visakhapatnam. Yes. Okay, good. All right. So yes, the topic of forgiveness. I think this should be relevant for every one of us. I'm sure we can all relate to this topic, because so often it happens that somebody treats us not so nicely, and we get offended, we get hurt. And sometimes we keep these grudges, for 10, 20 years. And we remember what this person did or said to us, and we can't let go, and we can't so easily forgive. Right? This has happened to us? Yes. And it's interesting, we usually think that we forgive a person for their sake, And that's why we often feel, the person does not deserve to be forgiven. That's very often what we feel, Or we feel when we forgive, we actually let go, we let them off the hook, and their action is forgiven in a sense that it's not wrong anymore or something. So there's so many misconceptions about this process of forgiving. And tonight we will discover that actually the main reason why we have to learn to forgive is for our own sake, so that we heal from this pain and we can move on. So very often, because it's all pretty subtle, and I really like to discuss these subtle topics, because we are often not aware of them, what actually is going on there, in our hearts and so on. So let me first introduce the point that actually we can say there is a primary quality of humility which manifests in secondary qualities, such as tolerance, forgiveness, patience, gratitude, respect. We can see all these qualities as secondary qualities of humility being the primary quality. In other words, a humble person will always be tolerant and forgiving and full of gratitude, and will be forgiving, we said that already, patient, respectful. So a humble person will always manifest these qualities, whereas a proud person will never manifest these qualities, right? Yeah. So interesting to understand how they are all connected. Yes. So primary quality is humility, and we want to, in this session today, we want to look at forgiveness. And let me maybe share a nice statement, because let's be clear that forgiveness is actually based on an inability to tolerate. These things we may also have never really thought about, how forgiveness is connected with tolerance. So I would like to share one very powerful statement from one of our previous acharyas, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He says in the book Chaitanya Shikshamrita, he says the following statement: giving up the desire to punish a person for committing an offense is called forgiveness or tolerance. So there is two interesting points in this statement. First of all, giving up the desire to punish a person for committing an offense, for treating us nastily. That is actually forgiveness. So when we cannot forgive, we maintain this desire to retaliate, to do something nasty back to them. That's happening on the subtle platform, even though we may never do anything, but this is like the common human response. If somebody treats us in a nasty way, we want to do something nasty back to them. We want to punish them, we want to retaliate, we want to take revenge. In German, Rache nehmen. Wir wollen uns rächen. So, and forgiveness means when we give up this desire to get back at them, to do something nasty to them, to punish them in some subtle way, not gross way, but subtle way, right? Yes. So, in other words, the inability to forgive means inability to give up this desire to punish a person for what they did to us. So that's the first interesting point. But then the second interesting point is that Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, so this is called forgiveness or tolerance. So it means Bhaktivinoda Thakur equates forgiveness with tolerance. You know? So that may also be a new thought for us, that actually the inability to forgive is connected with an inability to tolerate. Right? So we will explore this a little more in this session today. Basically, I want to use the first part of our 1.5 hour slot. I want to use the first part to explore a little bit what tolerance actually means. Because once we understand how forgiveness is based on the ability to tolerate, so then it becomes obvious that we first have to understand what tolerance is all about. Because there's also some subtle points which we may not even have, been aware of. And then the second session, or the second part of the session, I want to read some forgiveness meditations, which I have included in this False Ego book. So, very clear, tolerance is a very important, highly important quality to develop in spiritual life. Because tolerance means that the false ego is already a little subdued, right? It is actually the false ego which rebels, which protests. Oh, what is this? How can they treat me like this? And don't they know who I am? And I have done so much service. I've been for 30 years in Krishna consciousness, and I've given so much money. And now they're treating me like this. So this is the false ego. Yeah. So if a person has cultivated tolerance, it means he has already done some internal work on his false ego. He has already subdued and dissolved it. And that's absolutely necessary to get out of this material world. Because we have, the soul is covered by the gross body, which we can see here, made from earth, water, fire, air, ether. And then there's a subtle body made from mind, intelligence, false ego. So at the moment of death, it is the subtle body that carries the soul to the next existence, depending on how the subtle body is composed, what kind of attachments and desires are there, and. So, and to go back to Goloka Vrindavan or Vaikuntha, the subtle body has to be completely transformed and spiritualized. So, and if a person is tolerant, it means a person has done already some internal work to subdue the false ego. So that's why tolerance can be seen as a criterion to measure a person's spiritual strength and advancement, in how tolerant the person can be. Yeah. And we have the wonderful examples in our scriptures, Haridas Thakur, Prahlad Maharaj. They're the embodiment of tolerance, even though they were heavily mistreated and so on. Still, they were never inclined to avenge themselves. Never. Yeah, very high level of tolerance. And interestingly, in Bhagavad Gita 269, there Krishna says, what is day to the common person is night to the introspective sage. And what is day to the saintly person is night for everyone else. So in other words, this means the outlook on life of a materialist, of a spiritualist, so 180 degrees different, opposite completely, as opposite as day is from night. You know? It means what is success in material life will most likely be what? No. Hang on. Understand the day-night principle. What is day for the materialist is night for the spiritualist. So that means what is success in material life is a failure in spiritual life. It creates an obstacle. Yeah. Like, for example, path to success in material life is to show off, to push yourself to the front and promote yourself and step on other people's heads to get up there and so that's the path of success. The more expert we become to advertise ourselves, the more successful we become. So, but that mentality would be a big obstacle in spiritual life, you know. And the path of bhakti, we have to give up this tendency to show off and wanting to be the center of attention and all that, you know. Yes, just as an example, you know. So, and that also means what is success in spiritual life? What would it be seen with mundane vision? Also, failure, weakness. Tolerance is a very nice example of this, you know. In spiritual life, it's the topmost quality to strive for, to become tolerant. Those of you who are knowing our spiritual practice, Trinada Pisunichena, right? Mahaprabhu tells us we have to be more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. Only then we can actually chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the holy name, and receive that power and blessings which are in there, you know. So tolerance, such an important quality, but with mundane eyes, it is seen as weakness. What? You tolerate this? Forget it. I'm not going to tolerate that nonsense. Who am I to tolerate? I walk out, I get divorced. Why should I tolerate this? You know, so that is seen as success. Not to tolerate, to fight for your rights and defend and stand up for yourself and you know, right? Isn't it? Yes, that's the mood in material life. So good to understand this day-night principle. This accompanies us throughout our whole life. Another very clear example is position of mother. In Vaishnav culture, in spiritual life, mother comes straight after Krishna, comes mother. She's the most important personality in the human society. She's the first guru to the child. She creates a whole spiritual atmosphere in the home and thus within society. So she is such an important person. Whatever the mother says goes, you know. Officially, we can say the father is the family head, but who runs the show? It's the mother. She ties up everybody's hearts, you know, and she through her cooking, through her service, through her affection, you know, so whatever the mother says, everybody follows, That's actually the mood. But then in material life, what? You just a mother and housewife, is that all you do? Oh my God, so boring. You don't do anything else in that. Mothers are the poor slaves who are at home and they can't enjoy life and all that. So being a mother in material life is not a very valued contribution, Yes. So again, we have the day-night principle, or the elders in society. In Vaishnava culture, the elders are honored and respected. They embody life experience, self-realization. They give the guidance. They pass down the knowledge and the, traditions, and they're very important members. But material life, they seem to be what? The old people. What are they seen as? Huh? Yeah, or a burden, Oh, they have to be cared for. Sorry, no, I don't have time for this. I'm working and I have my hobbies and this and that. So, and that's why the old people are put in the old age home. And how do you say in German? Altersheim. Yeah, exactly. So, but in Vaishnav culture, in Bangladesh still, nobody would want to put their parents in an old folks home. My God, it would be seen as being so cruel, because the parents sacrificed themselves for so many years to bring up the kids and everything. And then in their old age, it's like slaughtering the cow. Can't give any more milk, okay, you get slaughtered, So, okay, you're old now, so go to the nursing home, all right, we're not there yet and slaughtering them. But yeah, it is very cool, it must be heartbreaking. Yeah, good idea. Thank you, bit of air, yeah. I mean, it must be heartbreaking for parents, when they sacrifice so many years. And then, when they need some help, they're just pushed aside in some old folks' home there, some nursing home. And it's so horrible in these nursing homes, Yes, people are senile and have dementia, and everybody has, the corridors have bad smells, or the stool and urine, and you hear all funny noises coming from the rooms. And it is a horrible way to spend your last phase in life, But yeah. So anyway, just to give you an idea how this day-night principle really accompanies us throughout our whole life, actually. And this is very important to clearly understand, because if we don't understand this, very easily we may think, well, this is modern and progressive now, this is success in the material world, so we also have to be modern and progressive. And then we invite these elements into our devotional life without realizing, hey, this creates an obstacle. What is success for the materialist will be an obstacle on our path of bhakti, Okay, so, nice and cool. From the fridge. Like Bhakti Gauravani Maharaj was commenting yesterday when he gave the class, saying, oh, so nice and cool. Yes, so in any case, yeah, that's why it's very important to clearly understand this. What is success in material life may very well be a disturbance and an obstacle on our spiritual path. So we have to be very cautious what elements we are inviting into our devotional life. Very cautious. Yeah. Okay, so now let me read a nice statement about tolerance. This is from the Bhagavatam 1:1848. There it says, the devotees of the Lord are so forbearing. Forbearing, it's like another word for tolerance. I actually looked it up what it means in German, but I forgot already. Nachsichtig, I think. Or geduldig, nachsichtig, something like that. So, the devotees of the Lord are so forbearing, basically tolerant, that even though they are defamed, cheated, cursed, disturbed, neglected, or even killed, they are never inclined to avenge themselves. So that's a pretty high level of tolerance, you know. Yes, that even though they are defamed, so if our fame, our reputation is ruined, this is a big challenge to the false ego. What will everybody think of me now? You know, especially if our fame has been unjustly ruined, you know, by some rumors, some talks, which, you know, we didn't even do, you know, it was all just some fake news there, some silly talks. So, but our reputation is ruined. This is a challenge for the false ego, you know, because we are so concerned. What does everybody think of me? You know, yes, this is, the false ego's demands. The false ego demands that we have a good reputation. Yeah, that we are somebody important in this world, you know. So, and when that is ruined, it's a challenge for the false ego to tolerate that, you know, to be defamed. So, and then cheated, also a big challenge for the false ego, right? When we are cheated, false ego cries for justice. That's not fair. I have to, you know, report them to the police or whatever. You know? I mean, it's interesting to see, even when, let's say, some murder happens, some crime, usually the relatives, they only find some kind of peace if the murderer is caught and 30 years in jail. So, then they have their punishment there for that person. And then there can be, you know, somewhat peaceful. But unless that person is caught and put in jail, you know, false ego is constantly complaining, they shouldn't, you know, that person deserves to be in jail and they didn't catch him, and, you know, and it just bothers them for the whole rest of their life, you know. Yeah, so to be cheated, cursed, disturbed, neglected, that's also a challenge for the false ego, you know, when we are neglected, ignored, not nicely treated, you know, it's, you know, it's almost, you can feel almost some physical pain there in the heart, you know, but it's actually the false ego which is pained, you know, yes. Yes, also when we are insulted, this is also a challenge. In the 11th canto, there's another nice definition of tolerance. Tolerance means to patiently endure unhappiness, such as that provoked by the insults or negligence of others. So if we are insulted or neglected, and we are willing to patiently endure such kind of unhappiness, that's tolerance. Yeah. So now, very often people say, but how much can we tolerate? You know? Or people say, well, when I tolerate, then I build up all this, negativity, and then it builds up, and sooner or later I explode or I get sick, and so sometimes I have come across this, that people say, this tolerance doesn't work for me. Doesn't work for me. All this negativity builds up and I explode. Doesn't work. So now, let us understand what true tolerance means. Because there is a difference between suppressing feelings and emotions or actually subduing and dissolving them. So what we commonly think to be tolerance is actually simply suppressing. But internally, the false ego is still battling and protesting, so the whole false ego battle is still continuing inside, but we are simply pushing down. So suppressing will never offer the solution to anything, even material desires or lust. Just to suppress will not be purifying. No, we have to do some internal work. We have to fulfill needs. We have to, satisfy the senses in a bona fide Krishna conscious way. While practicing Krishna consciousness, then there will be some purification. But just suppressing, hang on, let me first explain a few things and then we will ask for questions. Yeah, because let me first establish a few things so we have a foundation for discussion. So let me just explain what true tolerance is. So what we think to be tolerance is usually simply suppressing. And internally the false ego battle continues. And then it builds up. All this negativity builds up until we come to the point where we explode or we get all sick or whatever. That's not developing true tolerance. This is simply suppressing. So now, what is true tolerance then? So to cultivate true tolerance, we need to use two tools. The first tool is that we have this mood, actually, I deserve so much worse. Krishna is so kind, he only gives me one drop of what I really deserve. It could be much worse, but actually Krishna is very kind, and that we have this mood, well, I probably, was nasty to that person before in this life or in the last life, so now I'm simply getting back what I deserve, and actually I deserve so much worse, right? So if we cultivate this mood, then this will already quieten down the false ego's demands and protests. If we have this mood, we may not be able to do it from one day to the other, to truly have this mood. It is a question of cultivation. And for all these subtle internal matters where we have to do some internal work, very helpful to have a mentor, a counselor, a coach who helps us to see. Because usually false ego blocks our ears, blocks our intelligence, we actually can't see, we can't understand, and we can get very easily agitated, Yes. And fall victim to our false ego's demands. We take shelter of a false ego. So better to take shelter of a more experienced, well-wishing friend who will tell us, who will remind us, actually, just relax. It could be worse. Why not try and see things that actually Krishna is very kind. He only gave you one drop of what you really deserve. So by ourselves, we may not be able to cultivate this mood so easily. So that's why we need this well-wishing friend who reminds us and helps us to see things from that angle of vision. So now my question to you, to have this vision of saying, I deserve so much worse, but Krishna is so kind, he only gives me one drop of what I really deserve. What quality does that require? We mentioned it already a little in the very beginning, but just to make sure we get the point. What quality do we need? You were not even there. Yeah. Well, that's the topic of today. No, humility. Yeah. If we have some little humility, then we can have this mood more easily that actually I deserve worse. I'm a rascal. And Krishna is so kind, he only gives me one drop. But of course, if we are proud, we will not be able to have that mood. Then we think, how can they treat me like this? Don't they know who I am? I'm a senior devotee. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. But if there's some little humility there, then we can more easily cultivate this mood. And as we said, humility is the primary quality which manifests in tolerance and respect and patience and so many things. Yeah. So, and the second tool we need to have to cultivate true tolerance, that is that we see Krishna's hand in the picture. That we understand Krishna must have some reason why he puts me in this situation. After all, not a blade of grass is moving without Krishna being in control. So, what is he trying to teach me? Yeah. That we see everything in our life connected with Krishna being behind it. Actually, this is what it means to be Krishna conscious, right? To see every situation with Krishna behind it. Krishna trying to teach me something. And. So usually when things go according to our plans and when things are pleasing to our mind and senses, then it's not difficult for us to see Krishna's hand in the picture. Of course, it's Krishna's arrangement, right? But it may even be Maya's arrangement. She also makes a few arrangements. It's not always Krishna's arrangement. So when things are pleasing to our mind and senses, then, so easy to see Krishna's arrangement. But if things are challenging, when things don't go the way, which are pleasing to our mind and senses, then it is a challenge to see Krishna's hand in the picture, right? But these times when Krishna puts us into a challenging situation, they are usually special mercy, Yes, because challenges always means we have to do some internal work to deal with them, And that's when we make advancement, actually. But when everything goes fine and we are just cruising along there, that's not really the time when we make deeper advancement, but when we face some challenges, some difficulties, and we work through them, Even in relationships also, let's say marriage problems. Why are marriage problems there? Because we are not humble servant. If we were all truly selfless, humble servant, please everybody switch off your mobile phone, that's a bit disturbing. So if we were all truly selfless servants, then there would be no family issues, But family issues come up because there's so many expectations and demands for enjoyment and controlling and this and that. And that comes to the surface, so that's where all the purification lies. Yeah, so second tool, to see Krishna's hand in the picture. That's the second tool required to cultivate true tolerance. That yes, there must be some reason why Krishna is putting me in this situation. What is he trying to teach me? So now my question to you, what do we need to have for that approach? We need to have something.
Faith in Krishna. Faith.
Exactly, you got it right. Faith. If we have faith in Krishna, unflinching faith, then we can see Krishna's hand in the picture. Yeah, then we have that faith. Yes, Krishna is there. He must have some reason. He's arranging here some special challenge and purification for me. But that requires faith in Krishna. If we don't have faith in Krishna, we cannot even connect our situation with Krishna being in the picture. And I have come across this quite a bit, that people, 30 years in Krishna consciousness, they're doing their puja every morning, but then something happens which they just didn't expect to happen. And it can be such a challenge for people to accept, that their plan did not work out and Krishna has his plan. And I've seen it, how people get so angry and try to, counteract the relationship, the situation. I mean, I have to share this story. I know one couple where he was set on only having one child. One child. We cannot afford more than one child.
What's
One child.
a child?
Yeah. So, but she is coming from a family where there were twins. And she even said to him, jokingly she said, well, let's see what Krishna arranges. Maybe we have twins. No, one child. And then sure enough, they had twins. And it was so tough for him to accept. It was a whole nightmare, the situation. Yes. He made all kinds of ridiculous plans, how to make it one child. Yes, truly. I mean, it was a whole thing. I don't want to get into details, but he was doing every morning his little puja to Jagannath. He's been around for 30 years. But then this story, it just knocked him out, And I couldn't help myself, of course, seeing Krishna knows what to give us, to purify us, to make us understand we are not in control. We may want to have one child, but here Krishna arranges two. And we have to accept. We have to accept. We can't just continue going on and sticking to our guns, and we want to, make it into one child, not accepting the situation. This is, Krishna knows what we need for our purification, yes. So in any case, this vision of Krishna's hand in the picture, we can only have if we have unflinching faith in Krishna. Only then we can see his hand. And faith is another really important thing to develop, unflinching faith in Krishna. Actually, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, faith is the currency to purchase Krishna. Yeah. So if we have faith in Krishna, that conquers his heart. Yeah. And we know this maybe even from our daily relationships. If somebody has faith in us, if we are a little responsive to that, we don't want to let this person down. We feel obliged. We feel we have to reach out, we have to protect that person, we have to take care of that person because that person has so much faith in us. You know? Isn't it? Yes. So in Krishna as a person, you know, so if he sees, oh, my devotee has such strong faith in me, willing to tolerate any inconvenience, you know, that obliges Krishna, it conquers his heart. So that's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur says faith is the currency to purchase Krishna. Just recently on my travels, one devotee was asking, so Mataji, which one is your favorite currency? You know, dollars, euros, rupees. So and I said, faith in Krishna. That's the currency to purchase Krishna. You know, he was a little perplexed. He didn't expect that answer. So we had a whole discussion on faith. Yeah, so also Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, in the beginning stage of devotional life, our faith is as weak as a newborn baby girl. So baby girls are usually a little weaker than baby boys. Baby boys are usually more heavy and stout and stronger. So newborn baby girl, in other words, it needs all protection and nourishment. So that's our faith in the beginning stage, very fragile and weak, and it needs to be protected and nourished, you know. And then if we have unflinching faith, even unflinching faith in Prabhupada, so important, you know. Our Guru is, our worship of Guru does not end with Guru, but actually Guru connects us with Prabhupada. And if we have unflinching faith in Prabhupada, nothing can shake us. Doesn't matter what happens in ISKCON, there's always something happening in ISKCON, you know. Yes. But if we have faith in Prabhupada, nothing can shake us. We will never leave ISKCON, we will never give up the process of Krishna consciousness. We will stick with it and continue. But if we don't have unflinching faith in Prabhupada, you know, then something will happen and we all shaken and we lose our determination and we will give up Krishna consciousness, you know. And yeah, Krishna is testing us. And as we are longer in Krishna consciousness, the tests become more severe. Because the anarthas, the unwanted qualities in the heart, you know, to actually purify them, it becomes more and more subtle. So Krishna has to really dig deep there with a shovel, you know, to uproot these more subtle anarthas and attachments. So that's why as we become more senior, the tests become more severe. Yeah. And if we don't have faith in Prabhupada, very easily we can, you know, give up the process, you know. Sometimes even when people have some heavy disease, cancer or something, they're also interesting to see how people react. Some people get all angry with Krishna. What is this? I've been chanting Hare Krishna for 30 years and now he's giving me cancer. What the hell is this? Maybe he doesn't even exist. That's not fair. And, you know, sometimes people react like that, you know, but that shows a fruitive mentality that we think, okay, I chant Hare Krishna every day and Krishna has to give me some happy life here in this world. And if he doesn't, then, oh, what is this? You know, I've done so much service and now Krishna is giving me like this, treating me like this. You know, so yeah, these are all testing moments, you know, where we have to purify our heart and get rid of all kinds of fruitive expectations or whatever, you know. Yeah. So only if we don't have faith in Krishna and Prabhupada, we may not survive the test, you know. Yes. Yes, so before we continue, let me now see if there are any points for further discussion. Yes, Pooh.
Prabhupada, just talking about this last point, Prabhupada mentioned many times, chant and be happy. So if you are continuously unhappy, so what is there's no contradiction there?
If you're continuously unhappy,
Yes, because of the tests or whatever the purifications, whatever the reasons. So of course you should have faith, but at the same time, where's the happiness? Where's the happiness as a product of this practice of spiritual process?
well, the more selfless and unconditional we can be, the more happy we are. You know? That's maybe, you know, we can say married life. What makes it so strenuous is the expectations and demands. He is my husband, he should do like this. She's my wife, why doesn't she do like that? You know? In no other relationship are as many expectations and demands as in that relationship. So, or family relationships in general, even with parents, you know, they have their expectations and demands, and so the more expectations and demands we have, and the more we expect something for ourselves for the service we are offering, the more disappointments we will face in life, you know. So chant and be happy. Well, if we really practice the Krishna process of Krishna consciousness in the balanced way, under the guidance, doing some internal work, then as we chant, we will become more and more happy. If we become selfless, you know. And I mean in the, where is it, Chaitanya Charitamrita or Bhagavatam, there's even one statement where it says that if a perfect devotee, a pure devotee, faces some calamities and unhappiness, they are actually for him not unhappiness, but they are bliss. Externally, it looks like unhappiness. But as a devotee, we use these calamities to take more seriously shelter of Krishna. And then Krishna responds and shows himself more tangibly. And then these challenges actually become sweet because Krishna shows himself more. You know? So that's a pretty elevated level, you know. But that's what we should be doing with all challenges, not to be miserable and unhappy, but no, we say, okay, Krishna, even if you handle me roughly with your embrace and by not being present before me, still, I will continue serving you. I know you're there, you know. Yes. And then these challenges become sweet, not unhappy, you know. Yes. What else? Going back to tolerance, difference between suppressing and tolerating.
Sometimes happens, there are so many fluctuate in our life. Happens sometimes. I think sometimes make disconnect by Krishna happens. I know it has from the nature of what is this exactly? It's Krishna's behind this duality. So, what do you think? How to do sometimes things such as this care, sometimes alternative?
Yeah. See these ups and downs, that sometimes we are more enthusiastic and connected with the devotees, and then we move away from the devotees, and this is a common thing in the beginning when we are not steady. But as we steadily practice, we can be steady in ups and downs, from a material point of view. Even if things are getting tough or things are not working out, we expect it, and there's some material losses, some disease, whatever. Still, if we are deep in our spiritual practice, we will not get bewildered by this. We simply take it as an opportunity to take more deeply shelter of the process of Krishna consciousness, of the holy name, of the association of devotees. And then we will steadily, stir through these little turbulences there, like in the plane, turbulence. Sometimes the turbulence is, oh my God, a bit scary, So, but in spiritual life, the turbulences, if we are strong in our Krishna consciousness, we will not get shaken. We will not go all down and we stop chanting and we don't come anymore and all this. So there is a few secrets. Association is extremely important. If we live far away from the temple, then of course very difficult to counteract, the influences of material energy. But if we live close to the temple and ideally in walking distance, then we can come every day. We take darshan, or we live, we attend some programs, morning, whatever, and take prasadam with the devotees. So association is so important because material energy out there is so strong, So if we are living half an hour, 45 minutes away from the nearest temple, we don't have much chance. The material energy will wash us away, Yeah. So association is extremely important, and good sadhana, good habits of spiritual practice, and mentorship. Any problem in life can be solved if we have a mentor, if we have a counselor where we can reveal our heart, who gives us some good guidance, who is not just saying, yes, I know what you mean, I have the same problem, don't worry about it. So that will not help us much, but we need all this well-wishing friend where we have, where we are very clear that this person has no other interest except helping us in our spiritual growth. That is a very important thing in spiritual life. If we don't have that, then we take shelter of our false ego, we get offended, we walk out. Yeah. Any other points? Going back to tolerance. Well, a very common thing, let me add couple more things. Usually they come up in the question that people say, well, what about abuse? Should we just tolerate that or something? So let's be clear. We cannot justify abuse in the name of tolerance. Yes. So abusive situation, whatever abuse, emotional, physical, sexual, whatever it may be. So abuse, something has to be done. Yeah. And we can say not only for the person who is abused, but something should be done for the sake of the person committing the abuse, because that's Vaishnava aparadha, there will be a heavy reaction, So even for that person's sake, something has to be done. And again, mentorship is the solution. If we have a mentor, then we reveal our mind and heart to that person. And that person has to do something. because there is one rule of Vaishnava etiquette, that a devotee should never defend him or herself. We should not defend ourselves, but if we see other people who are badly treated, then we should stand up and defend that person. But ourselves, we don't defend. There is a nice purport. It's actually in the purport to this verse we read, where it says if a devotee is cursed and neglected and cheated and whatnot, he's never inclined to avenge himself. So in the purport, Prabhupada says, as such, the devotees are never inclined to counteract personal defamation, curses, negligence, etc. As far as such things are concerned, in personal affairs, the devotees do not care for them. In other words, the mood of a devotee is, let me just accept whatever unhappiness here I'm meeting in life. But in the case of their being performed against the Lord or his devotees, then the devotees take very strong action. That's the rule of Vaishnava etiquette, that we should not defend ourselves. Because if we defend ourselves, what do we defend? The false ego. Right? Yes. And defending here, we mainly mean verbal defense. Answering back, wanting to be right, blaming others. That's a very classic mechanism to defend, by pointing the finger at others, Yes, it's his fault, her fault, the external situation. And in other words, we say, I'm okay, nothing is wrong with me. It's all the other people around me. Very common mechanism to defend. So that's the Vaishnava etiquette. And if everybody would follow the Vaishnava etiquette, then there would be no need to even defend ourselves, because surely somebody else would step in and defend us, right? Yes. Then there would be no need. But unfortunately, we usually do the opposite of what we really should be doing. We are defending ourselves every day. But when somebody else gets badly treated, we say, oh no, I don't get involved in this. I don't want to damage my relationships here. If I say something, then they will not like me anymore. And no, I look away, I don't see things, and it's none of my business. That's what usually people do. But we should be doing the opposite. We should not defend ourselves. But if we see somebody else unfairly treated, we should step in and defend that person, not worrying about ourselves, yes. So, and going back to abuse, same thing there, if we are abused, difficult to defend ourselves, and we shouldn't even try. We should go and reveal our heart to somebody trustworthy, and that person has to defend us. Yes. But unfortunately in the past this was sometimes not done, because the person who is the offender, or he may be my friend and this and that, But that's where we go wrong. We have to defend others if there is some issue. But ourselves we are willing to tolerate. Yes. And if everybody acts like that, then there's no need to defend ourselves. Then surely somebody will step in and defend us. But this is, I think, important to mention, because we don't want to justify abusive situations in the name of tolerance, right? No. Okay, is there anything else in regards to tolerance? Maybe I should share one other little thing, which often comes up, that people say, but in the material world, if we just tolerate, then people walk all over us and they take advantage of us, right? So we have to fight back. That's, huh?
Not only in Tempel, but also in ISKCON.
Not only in the material world, but also in ISKCON. Okay, well, let us have a look at that. So, I want to share one little situation from my own life. This was about 15 years ago or something. The German taxation department demanded that I pay 1,500 euros tax, which I was not supposed to pay. I'm not even registered in Germany as a living, so, you know, that they were just cheating me. Yes. But I had 3 months' time to, you know, make my complaint, and I missed this 3 months period because I was traveling. Somebody else accepted the letter. They didn't open it. They didn't tell me what's inside, you know. And I missed the 3 months' time where I could protest. So when I got this letter, I was furious. My foot's ego was up in the ceiling. What is this? They're cheating me. How ridiculous, you know. So I immediately rang the taxation department and I had a whole argument with this lady there. And she said, well, you can take the matter to court and you missed your 3 months period and what can be done? Da, 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 da. And I was so disturbed. I couldn't even chant anymore. This whole issue was going in circles in my mind and I was really agitated. So, and then thank God, I remembered one verse in purport from the Vergebung, which I had copied in my verse book. So sometimes it's useful to know a little bit of Shastra. So I want to read you this. This is 4:1934. The verse is as follows. We should always remember that if something happens by providential arrangement, meaning Krishna's arrangement, we should not be very sorry. The more we try to rectify such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest region of materialistic thought. I could really feel this, you know. So now purport by Prabhupada. Sometimes the saintly or very religious person also has to meet with reversals in life. Reversals, Rückschläge or something, right? Such incidents should be taken as providential, meaning Krishna's arrangement. Although there may be sufficient cause for being unhappy, well, yeah, there was cause for me to be unhappy. One should avoid counteracting such reversals, for the more we become implicated in rectifying such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest region of material anxiety. Lord Krishna has also advised us in this connection. One should tolerate things instead of becoming agitated. So I remembered this. And I thought, okay, let's just pay it. I haven't paid much taxes this lifetime, so maybe I still owe them something. So let them have it. And I just paid 1,500 euros and the story was finished. Yeah, because you imagine if I had taken them to court, oh my God, I would have had sleepless nights, you know? Yes, forget it. So now we may say, well, that looks like you're really the loser here, you paid the money. From mundane vision, we are the loser. But from a spiritual vision, we are the winner. Because we use that opportunity to let go of the false ego's demands. So we may be very successful, struggling through life, defending and struggling for our rights, but at the moment of death, we have to take another birth because we didn't manage to give up the false ego's demands, you know? So it depends on the vision. From a mundane vision, it looks like a failure, and we should stand up for yourself, defend, not only outside ISKCON, even within ISKCON. So, but no, you know, in the ultimate sense, at the moment of death, who cares? You know, I always keep that in the back of my mind. At the moment of death, is this still important whether I paid 1,500 euros tax or not? No, it's not. Nobody cares. Already now, who cares? It's done. It's, you know, yeah. At the moment of death, all these things are insignificant. Curtain closes, whole show is over. It doesn't matter anymore. Yeah. So good to keep that in the back of our minds, just to see, you know, the perspectives properly. That all these struggles, inside is gone, outside is gone. At the moment of death, show is over, finished, you know. Yes. So better we use these things to cultivate tolerance, to let go of the false ego's demands, and then we sneak back home, back to Gauradesh at the moment of death. You know, yes, through the back door. Nobody even notices. But if we're always defending, struggling, that's the false ego's demands. So if we defend, at the moment of death, our false ego will not be subdued and dissolved, you know, and then we have to do another round in the material world. You know? Yes. Yeah, so in other words, even in material issues, from an absolute platform, more successful if we learn to tolerate them and let go, you know, and move on. You know? Yeah. We get the spiritual benefit, even though materially we may be missing out. But that's only the material vision. You know? All right, we still have a few minutes. I do want to go. You have a question? Yeah, I mean, officially seminars from 6 to 8, so we do have time. I hope you will stay and not just all walk out one after the other. So, what?
Just on the same topic, there are sometimes situations, let's say, one thing came to my mind. We were in a country outside of Germany, and they were rolling speedboats for the Ratayatra. And I was helping, and I have a technique to roll 2 speedboats at the same time. So I was much faster than everybody else. And then they started to make fun of me, and they said like, oh, she's like a German machine, and everybody was kind of laughing about me. And I felt so uncomfortable. I mean, I tolerated it, but I was so unhappy. I thought, okay, let me just finish this pile, and then I leave. I felt so, I was not happy. It was not happy devotional service. This came to my mind, trampling over you. You could say it's a false ego, but I mean, there are sometimes more complex situations where the devotee becomes very unhappy in a certain situation. And your explanation somehow didn't answer this angle somehow. For me, at least, I didn't understand.
Again, if we use these 2 tools that we discussed in the beginning, tool number 1 is to think, actually, I deserve so much worse. Krishna is so kind, he only gives me 1 drop, you know. And what is Krishna trying to teach me here? Why is Krishna allowing this to happen? There must be some reason for it. He must be trying to teach me something. You know, so it is, I hope you don't mind me saying, but it is a classic situation where the false ego is pained. It's the false ego, nothing else. Yeah.
Okay, I understand this, but we have devotees who said they have learned out and so many people left. There were so many situations where people had enough or they were mistreated or like, you know this, burned out.
Yeah.
Very typical. This is only one little, let's say,
Example.
unschuldige Geschichte. Ne?
Ja.
Das ist ja viel schlimmer.
Ja.
Aber wie kann man, also, it could be for ego okay, but still, if you are not on the level of pure devotee, at one point you cannot take it anymore.
Mentorship. That's why we need a mentor. If we have this well-wishing, trusting friend where we can really open our heart and we know this person will not take advantage of what we share and schmiert es wieder auf mein Brot hier später, get back at me and give me a hard time about it. If we have a mentor where we can share this, who is more experienced, then that person can help us to deal with it. Because we do have to do some internal work to dissolve the false ego. Of course, this doesn't mean that we are treating each other all roughly and in a mean way just to help us to dissolve the false ego, That's not what I'm saying. Of course, it is silly and stupid, and probably they have their issues that maybe they're a little envious or whatever, because that's how envy manifests, by making fun out of a person and making them look foolish and stupid, and that way they put that person down and establish their superiority. That's how envy manifests, So, these things, in devotee dealings, these things will come up because we all in the wash here, we all have our natas, It's a classic example from their side, how envy manifests, So, but glorious is when we can tolerate it and we make some joke or something or whatever, and we brush it off, we let go of it, So the reason why we feel unhappy, and it is the false ego is in pain. And you're very right, many people have left ISKCON and this and that. But see, it's not ISKCON. These things happen in the material world as well. It's just the envious dealings amongst people, So, of course, we bring them into ISKCON, And to survive these tests, we need a mentor. We need this trusting, well-wishing friend. Otherwise, we take shelter of the false ego, we get offended, forget it, I'm never going there again, let them make their stupid boards by themselves, and I'm not going to visit that city again. Or maybe if it's our home yatra, we even fade away from Krishna consciousness, out of these reasons, That's why this mentorship is such a crucial topic, Without having a mentor, we lead a risky life, and we miss out on recognizing how to do this internal work, Yes. Because Krishna gives us these situations. I remember once Kadambakana Maharaj was saying, and Simhachalam, he was saying, sometimes we think, this person has such a big false ego, but then why is Krishna sending this person in our life, to help us let go of our false ego, and we attacking the other person with his big false ego, but actually our own false ego doesn't like to deal with this person and gets inflamed and aggravated. So Krishna sends us this person with this big false ego just for us to learn how to let go of our false ego. You know, I remember that. I thought it was really funny and just so true, you know, because often we say, this Babu, this Mataji, she's got such a big false ego, you know, but yeah. There's a reason why Krishna sends us this person in our life, so that we have to work on our false ego, you know. Yeah. Is that kind of answering a little bit? Yes. We can't blame ISKCON for it. You know? Who is ISKCON? It's all of us. You know? And because we are preaching movement, we welcome everybody. So, and people bring in their junk here, you know, and contaminate the atmosphere around us. So we have to learn how to deal with these things. You know? So let me not make it too late. Let me go through these forgiveness meditations. So first of all, let's understand. Life in the material world will always confront us with so many unexpected disappointments and hurtful situations. It's actually unavoidable. It's life in the material world. Inside is gone, outside is gone. You know, there will always be some hurtful situations. So, and our relationships will be filled with more joy and harmony as we learn to forgive and move on. Yes. So Nelson Mandela, I'm sure we all have heard of him, some freedom fighter in South Africa who was imprisoned for quite a few years. So he shared, as I walked out the door towards the gate that would lead to my freedom, meaning leaving the jail, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I would still be in prison. Yes, this inability to forgive. If we maintain this bitterness and hatred, that imprisons us. Again, you know, we may leave the big prison, but in our heart we are still imprisoned actually. Another thinker discovers, I never knew how strong I was until I had to forgive someone who was not sorry and accept an apology I never received. We can forgive others not because they deserve forgiveness, but because we deserve peace. That's what forgiveness is all about. We usually think, this person doesn't deserve that I forgive them, you know. But no, we are the ones who deserve peace. That's why we have to learn to forgive. Habt den Schluck. In die falsche Kehle. So, let me see. If we can bring this to conclusion. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, so, you know, we can forgive others not because they deserve forgiveness, but we deserve peace. You know, this is the misunderstanding there. Because as we said, we want to maintain this right to punish the person. So then we think, if we let go of this, if we forgive, we do it for their sake, right? But actually, the truth is we forgive for our sake, because we deserve peace. The truth is, unless we let go, unless we forgive ourselves, and that can also be a challenge to forgive ourselves, right? We may have done some really foolish mistake which ruined our whole reputation, some fall down or whatever. So, and then the false ego whispers in our ear, how could you do this? Just see what everybody's thinking of you now. And then we cannot forgive ourselves, you know? False ego is constantly in our ear. How could you do this? God, you were so foolish. You thought you were so Krishna conscious, and oh, look, just see what you did. And. So, and again, if we use the two tools, Krishna is so kind, he only gives me one drop of what I really deserve. At least I'm still alive. It could have been worse, you know. And what is Krishna trying to teach me here? Maybe I was just too puffed up, thinking myself to be so Krishna conscious, and Krishna smashed my pride a bit by making me, you know, make a foolish mistake, you know. So if we use the same two tools, then we can learn to forgive ourselves, you know. So unless we let go, unless we forgive ourselves, unless we forgive the situation and others around us, unless we realize the situation is over, it's done, we cannot move forward. Yes, we are stuck, you know, we are hanging on to this. Yeah. Forgiveness is not only something we do for other people, we also do it for ourselves to get well and move on. Forgiveness doesn't excuse their behavior. That's what we often think. You know, if we forgive somebody, he's excused. But no, it doesn't mean that. It prevents their behavior from destroying our heart. That's why we have to learn to forgive, you know, yeah, to protect our heart from this negativity. Maybe it is not always about trying to fix something broken. Maybe it's about starting over and creating something better. Forgiveness is when I give up my right to hurt you for hurting me. That's the same what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, right? It is not about letting someone off the hook for their actions, but about freeing ourselves of negative energies that bind us to them. That's what we do when we forgive, you know? We cut that negative bond, those negative energies which bind us to them. We let go of that. That's what forgiveness is. By giving up my right to hurt you for whatever you did to me. That's what forgiveness is, you know? And we can only do that when we are tolerant. When we cannot tolerate, then we will not want to give up my right to hurt you for hurting me. We hang on to it because we haven't cultivated tolerance. Right? Is it becoming clear? Yes. Forgiving does not erase the bitter past. Often we have the saying, forget and forgive. But no, we are not forgetting. Oh, we remember very clearly, but we remember in a different way, without this bitterness and pain. You know? We change the way of remembering. But yes, we do remember what happened, but maybe we can even smile about it, you know, and we don't feel that pain anymore. if we have forgiven. So forgiving does not erase the bitter past. A healed memory is not a deleted memory, right? So forgiving means we heal the memory. We don't delete it. We better remember, because otherwise we allow people to again somehow take advantage of us and hurt us or something. So we learn our lesson, we keep a little different distance, we don't forget. Forgiving what we cannot forget creates a new way to remember, without that pain, without that hurtful feeling, without that bitterness. It creates a new way to remember. We change the memory of our past into a hope of our future. Relationships get stronger when both are willing to understand mistakes and forgive each other. Good for marriage relationships. We can offer prayer. My dear Lord, if I hurt others, give me the strength to apologize. If people hurt me, give me the strength to forgive. So what do you think is more difficult? Apologize or forgive? Huh? It takes a strong person to say sorry and an even stronger person to forgive. Forgiveness is more deep, Even though with apologies, sometimes there's also this ego battle, and both sides feel the other person should apologize first, both feel the other person should apologize, first. And then nobody wants to be the first one who apologizes. Or we say, yeah, I'm really sorry, but, so then it's this lip service. Deep down, we think we are in the right and it was actually the other person's fault. But we can say, even if it was not our fault, but just the fact that somehow the other person got irritated or disturbed, that is actually enough reason for us to say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that somehow I unintentionally disturbed you, even if it is the other person's fault, ego or something. But still, if we have a little compassion, we feel sorry that this person is so agitated and disturbed now about something which, from my side, was completely normal to say or something. But somehow the person got triggered and misunderstood and took it all in the wrong way. So even if we feel it's actually their issue, but still, just seeing a person being disturbed is enough reason to say, oh, I'm really sorry, I didn't mean it like that. And, To forgive is not always easy. At times it feels more painful than the wound we suffered to forgive the one that inflicted it. And yet there is no peace without forgiveness. When we forgive, we heal. When we let go, we grow. Rhyming. Another point is, of course, these undigested issues. They bind us to the material world. We have to come back again. With all this kind of luggage there, we can't enter Goloka Vrindavan, no chance. Because the subtle body has to be fully transformed, fully spiritualized. So that's why it is a good rule in life to always clear the atmosphere, not allowing things to build up and keep grudges and these no talking periods. I don't talk to that person anymore. And, it all, builds up and we can't go back to Godhead with this luggage. So best to immediately always clear things up work through things, address them, and, because otherwise we never know when the moment of death comes, and if we have these unsolved issues with people, they bind us to this world, guaranteed. We have to come back and solve them, Yeah. Yes. And even when Prabhupada left, of course, he set only the example for us, but he also apologized, to his godbrothers, saying, "Oh, please forgive me for my offenses." So, of course, we know Prabhupada didn't do any offenses. If anybody did any offenses, it was his godbrothers who were just envious and didn't want him to be successful or something. But Prabhupada, set that example that before we leave, we have to make it a point to forgive people, to apologize, and clear the atmosphere, free us from this negativity which binds us to people, because otherwise we have to come back and solve the whole issue in the next life, So better to work on it now, Yes. Forgiveness is about recognizing that staying resentful creates an active echo of the pain the offender caused. That's also a good way of putting it, By not forgiving, it creates an active echo of that pain. By saying that the awful offense the offender did is beyond forgiveness, we give them the power to keep their offense alive in our heart. That's what happens, by not forgiving, by not letting go and cutting this negative bond there. We allow them to still ongoingly affect our heart. We give the offender continued power over us. That's what takes place, Yes. So it's good to understand we mainly do it for ourselves, to heal and not allow that person to continuously affect us with that negativity. All right. Any final comments, questions about forgiveness? So basically we can summarize, forgiveness is based on the ability to tolerate. It's the false ego which rebels, complains, protests, wants to retaliate, wants to, have the right to do something nasty back to them, And because of that, we think by forgiving, we do it for the other person because we want to punish them in a subtle way, Yeah. So, and the ability to tolerate is based on which two tools? Who remembers?
By seeing Krishna's hand in everything.
Huh?
By seeing Krishna's hand in everything.
What?
Krishna's hand. By
seeing Krishna's hand in everything. So what does it require? Faith. And the other tool?
I deserve much worse.
And what does that require? Exactly. Yeah. So if we cultivate these two tools, and it's a gradual process, we won't get there overnight, but by remembering these two tools and trying to cultivate them in whatever challenges we meet when we get agitated and it's hard to forgive, if we cultivate these tools, we will cultivate tolerance. And then as we cultivate tolerance, we can just let it go by and forgive and see the person acted out of ignorance, and and it will not disturb us so much, And again, Haridas Thakur, Prahlad Maharaj, they're the shining examples. When Prahlad Maharaj was asked, what kind of benediction do you want after Hiranyakashipu was killed? So what did Prahlad Maharaj say? please forgive my father for all the, offenses he committed. That was his concern, because he was treated, I don't know if you know the story. Yes, you do. Oh, well, you've been in Samachalam, so you better know. But that was Prahlad Maharaj's only concern, that, my father has, behaved so ridiculously and horribly and sinfully. So let him be forgiven for his offenses, So that's tolerance, He didn't want to punish his father. Any common person would have said, yes, my father deserves, 1,000,000 lifetimes in hell or something. Let him have it for all what he did to me. That would be the ordinary response. But Prahlad Maharaj said, oh, please forgive him. Let him be forgiven. Yeah. Okay. So let's finish on that note. Thank you for attending and sticking to the very end. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveda Bhaktanda ki, Gaura Premanandi. Hare Krishna. So I guess